Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders. From physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance, we leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey everybody, welcome to Answering the Call, First Responders Podcast. I am the Podfather Mike Miles, and I'm here with...
It's Skylar, and it's noontime.
Skylar Noon, and we love having Skylar on. Today, Ed's not with us, Skylar.
No.
We're flying solo. It's tough without him, I guess, you know. I don't know. It seems like it's been going pretty good, actually.
Yeah, no, it has. But I definitely, his energy is always good. You know, it breaks it up.
It
and
certainly does.
We want to make sure he knows we missed him,
That's right. We also want to thank FirstNet, built by AT&T, who, sponsor our show. It's just a great opportunity for any law enforcement, EMS, to look into FirstNet, built by AT&T, because they'll be there for us when and if there's ever a catastrophe or incidents where normal communications aren't available to us, Mm-hmm. And what a gift, what an opportunity,
Yes, definitely.
And I feel honored, for a policeman of 35 years and continuing on helping cops and firemen and correctional officers and EMS and veterans. I feel very honored that they even sought us out, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that being said, I'm going to give the phone number out. So if you want to reach us, you can give us a call at 617-379-1163. And you can email at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And then there is also a copline.org, and that's 800 copline, which is 800-267-5463.
Very good. Very good. So good. Yeah, just thinking about Ed, because, Ed gets a little tongue-tied and he's anxious, and you just calm and float along. It's good. And maybe we can get Ed to, do his own show. All right. We'll just keep these shows and let him.
Oh, he's going to kill us now.
Just kidding, Ed. Oh yeah, I'd be all nervous. So we have a guest. We have a guest today. I think Brian Fleming used to be the EAP for the Boston Police. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm going to read you his bio, actually, it was awesome. I'm so excited to meet him. So he is a peer support, does with peer support services. Yep. So he helps to educate agencies about mental health and addiction among our ranks, while also explaining how to navigate the myriad of the options and the obstacles inherent in getting officers to speak and accept help. More importantly, the right place to get the help. So he's retired in 2015 after 32 years in the career of the Boston Police Department, and including the following assignments: is SWAT, Special Ops, Motorcycle Unit. Let's see here, and then director of the Boston Police Peer Support Unit and Academy instructor. So he also has a history of his own, substance abuse past that he'll fill us in on, and kind of helped him get started in this a little bit. So with that, I guess we will welcome Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, how are you, everybody?
How's it going?
Good. I just actually got through another doing a seminar a little while ago, so I missed my afternoon nap. I'm a little tired,
A little cranky, a little tired. I love those naps. I worked early nights for 28 years, and when I went to days, about 11 o'clock, I'd have to go lay down somewhere. I just couldn't acclimate myself to stay awake for those 2 hours,
Yeah.
Now, it looks like you were in part of you oversaw like the largest and most complicated mental health interventions in history at Boston PD. So, do you want to tell us a little bit of anything of that, or?
Yeah, that was I was the peer support director during the Boston Marathon bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that must have been pretty taxing, I'm sure. My daughter was at Fisher College. It was her first year at college that day. She called me, and we lost communication. I actually I was halfway there when she finally got back to me and said she was fine, but that must have been one heck of a time. You must have been overwhelmed. What did you do? Did you call in outside agencies, or how did you handle all that? That must have been an influx.
Well, everything for a very complicated intervention. I mean, you had 4 critical incidents in a 5-day period. You had the 2 bombings. You had the MIT officer shot and killed, and then you had the shootout in Watertown. So any one of those would have been a major event. And we had
Boy,
4
that's so true, huh? That's so
in
true.
5 days.
Sure.
So the day after the bombings, NYPD's Papa team called and offered their assistance. I said,
Wow.
absolutely,
That's
bring
great.
them in. And the reason it works so well is because we both practice the same interventions, which is the Mitchell model.
Yeah, Jeffrey Mitchell. Yeah. And
yeah, it was. I think back at how many things could have went wrong, and it really didn't, because everybody was on the same page. But I'll tell you, it changed the face of the marathon forever.
Or did it ever? I couldn't agree with you more. And to live in the area, to be part of that, to watch the police, and what a stark difference from then till now. When I remember after the Watertown capture of the Sarnia, the last Sarnia brother, I remember the news, actually, the Boston Liberal News was actually showing college students high-fiving police officers. You probably saw it too. And then you come ahead, 20 years, 19 years, and the unrest that society has with police now, it really disturbs me. I don't know. What do you think of that? I mean, you've seen it.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine working today in it, but I actually have a slide or a picture of that, what you're just talking about on a presentation. And I said, in 2 weeks, they're going to be kicking our ass in about something else. And they were.
You were right, Brian. Brian, your predecessor, long before you or long before us, myself. I mean, I got sober in '86, but I met Eddie Donovan in Mattapan, and I had gone to there was no place to go for a cop with a drug or alcohol problem. There was, but nobody knew about it. But then I met Ed Donovan, and I started going to meetings, not so much there. I went to like 3 meetings there, but then I started going to meetings closer to home. But it was nice to know that there were actually cops that were out there and that had, problems similar to mine. And so you're kind of like a pioneer in this field, because after Eddie Donovan, and Boston's probably one of the biggest police departments in the country, definitely in the top 10. And not only that, but it's those 4 incidents you just talked about. I mean, you must have seen some stuff over the years that most cops will never see. But how proud were you to have that unit? And when you did leave, did you have to relinquish it to someone? Did somebody come in that you were comfortable with taking it over?
That's funny you asked that, Mike. You know how things work in the police department.
I know, buddy. I know.
So no, actually, when you do things that other people don't agree with, I've been a client in that building for 25 years before I took over. And
right.
I mean, I get there probably just before you with Eddie Donovan in '85. And I remember Eddie sitting next to me the first night I went in there with another guy, And but when I left, I had, being a member of that place with Tonavi, I knew what things had to be done and what needed to be changed. And other people didn't like what I was doing. And before I knew it, I was sitting in a basement room up the academy staring at 4 walls.
Well, I had a similar situation. I had a chief of police and you had a superintendent of police by the same name, and I give him accolades for some of the things he did, but also on the other side of it, I don't think that, he wasn't into the EAP program in Lowell. I don't know how he ended up with how he handled the one in Boston, but more importantly, your name has always been synonymous with help. And, Brian, I mean this, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Your name was mentioned so many times throughout my career. I became the EAP in 2010, but actually in 2000, I was doing everything for everybody without any degrees or any type of title. I was just working early nights. But your name has always been synonymous with helping people over the years. And every time there was a shooting in Lowell or something bad happened or someone had a problem, would call on you and people you work with. So I just want you to know that there are a lot of people out there that remember and really respect and really appreciate it, all your ability, knowledge, and involvement.
I appreciate that, Mike. It's funny. I'm still doing it today. And I was working for some treatment centers and doing some other things, but I found out that their bottom line is money. And
Exactly. Right.
When money was involved, it takes away. I mean, it just diverts from the primary purpose. And so in the last year, I've been putting people in different rehabs and places all over the country for nothing. And you know what? I like it that way.
Right.
I like it that way. And it's not just because nobody tells me what to do, it's because I can find someone the best place in the country for whatever is ailing them. I'll give you, you be an EAP. Listen to this, right? So I got a call from a police couple, actually. And their daughter had depression and eating disorder. And now you go to any EAP or anybody and say, where's the place that we can send that? That's not an easy thing to do, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I call up a friend of mine who works at a national company. Oh yeah, we get the best place in the country for that in St. Louis. So the next day, she's out there in St. Louis. And not only that, she was a soccer star and was built for athletes. So it's like,
wow.
What a fit. What a fit, huh, Scott?
Perfect.
Oh, I mean, it's great when you can do that, and then you always get the people that, like in the old days, I said, you want to go to a detox? Yeah. Well, they're going to stick needles in your eyes. But I say, I don't care. That's the other people are asking if they have queen size beds and feather pillows.
Right. Sure.
What day later? Bye.
What time's breakfast?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're so fortunate, you and I, and to have someone like Ed Chaccio and to have Skylar Noon and Taylor, and Genesis. And I know we use other facilities too, obviously, because, there's round pegs and round holes, and sometimes people can't go to Florida or whatever. But I honestly, and I say this all the time, I've helped hundreds of people, not just cops and firemen, but I've always used Genesis as the first, the first place to go. And I swear, one of the reasons is I have such good success, down there, and I'm sure you do too. But having people like Eddie Chaccio and Skylar to rely on it, and Melissa to be able to call in a time of need is so important,
Mm-hmm.
Eddie's done me a lot of favors over the years, and we'll send a lot of people down there. So.
Sure have.
I'm an alumni myself. I went there in 2008 and I've been clean and sober since.
See, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah. So, I mean, and honestly, my experience wasn't that they were about money. Like I've worked and been at other treatment centers, and my experience was they worked with my mom because my insurance didn't work. So they worked with their own cash amounts, everything the entire way, so.
Those are the ones you want to deal with.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So Brian, you remember Dr. John Barry and his wife, Peg?
Oh yeah, with the pipe and
Yep. I mean, and there's a good example. I go back to that era when I was in R, and I still am. And John Barry saved my life, I really believe. But that was an era, I think, when it was just starting, the EAP was just starting to be accepted, and departments. I'm sure, Brian, of all people, you probably got more calls from anybody because Boston's the big one. Can you go back to that era? Like that would have been in the 90s and early 90s, late 80s.
Late 80s. Yeah.
It was a different era back then. Wouldn't you say with the administration and with cops and firemen and everything?
Well, you got to remember is that Boston was the first employee assistance program in the country for cops.
Right.
And some say the world. So if you look back in Eddie Donovan's bio, he has a quote saying something about we're too afraid of what our friends think about us, and that's that self-centered fear. Now he said that in 1983.
Right.
Okay. So it was then. It's just as hard today because cops are built that way. So we are so afraid of what our peers, the public, the bosses are going. We might lose our gun. We might, all that stuff. Back then, that was really novel to have a psychologist talking to cops.
Right.
So he was way ahead of his time. Actually, he just had a birthday. He's 80 something.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's still kicking. I love that man. And you just brought up a good point too. You just quoted what Eddie Donovan said, and like you got sober around the same time I got sober. You probably have a little bit more time than me, but I just think it's true. So in your case personally, did you really care? Like once you got sober, I'm sure you didn't care as much. But when you was that preventing you? I guess Brian is what I want to ask you from getting help because you were a cop, you were a Boston cop.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of my drinking. Okay, now I was about 2.5 years on the job. I was riding a brand new '83 Harley for not doing anything really back in those days, and just riding up and down Dot Ave, taking a cruise. It was like,
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
And
you had a gun.
And a gun, yeah. And and I was drinking, but I never blamed drinking. I never thought it was a problem, but doing cocaine, could have been an issue because I was a cop.
Same here, yeah.
So I didn't realize it then, but I knew now that the only time I ever touched that stuff was when I was drinking. So that was the door that opened.
Same here.
I drank because I didn't want to pass out, so I'll take the magic marching powder and, I'll be all set,
Happy as
and at the end, I remember coming home. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I said, "Jeez, I did it again. 1,000 times. I ended up taking my 38, putting it in my head, putting my finger on the trigger and saying, I'm done.
Yep.
And I will never forget that black hole depression inside. I will never forget that as long as I live. And, I remember kneeling down and saying, God, please help me. Because I did have some exposure before the seed was planted.
Sure.
And I wanted to come down, hit me with the magic wand and say, hey, you're going to be commissioner tomorrow. Everything's okay.
Right.
But what happened was I went on my merry way, ended up overdosing, nearly dying, and then getting fired. So those three things, the suicidality, the ideation, the overdose, and losing my job, were then the 3 worst days of my life. And they're the best freaking things that ever happened to me.
Same here.
That's a gift of desperation. And not only that, when I talk to someone who's suicidal today, I know exactly how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a nice tool to have in the toolbox. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but
Yeah.
Well, Brian, our stories are very similar. I too was a cocaine fiend. I too had a 38 that I had won Policeman of the Year in 1984. They gave me a beautiful 38 Smith Wesson stainless steel 38 called the Chief Special. And that's how it was going to go. I was sitting at home and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I was living alone. Why suffering all this pain? I'll just kill myself, And I don't mean to sound melodramatic, but there was peace right there. I felt peace I hadn't felt in a while, but brought up Catholic. I get on my knees and I was praying to God for my family. And next thing you know, I'm calling a friend. I'm on my way. And I too got fired for 17 months and I got my job back. You got your job back. Is that correct?
Yep. 3.5 years. Yep.
And how hard was that, Brian? That must have been a mother. I mean, that must have been a mother load.
Well, that gift of desperation goes a long way, but I got to be honest with you. The first 3 years I was in AA was because I wanted to get my job back. It wasn't because I wanted to stay sober. So I always tell people, if you're here for another reason, that's okay. Just keep coming.
Right.
Yes.
And then I realized about 3.5 years in, I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go do something else. And 2 weeks later, the Carney decision came out. Mike Carney from Springfield and got a Supreme Court decision. We both got reinstated.
Wow.
And
Wow.
And that's funny. The commissioner there hated me, right? So he says, stay at home. I'm just going to send you checks. I said, oh, that sucks. Yeah, okay. But I found out he was going to try to fire me another way. So I had him file a contempt of court charge against him. And then I was back in the academy for about a week and they threw me behind the booking desk in B2, which was not the best place in the city.
Right.
But I was glad to be there.
They threw me in the wagon for 2.5 years, driving the police wagon. And I've watched guys like Ed Davis go from sergeant to lieutenant to captain to deputy, to chief. And he was making tons of arrests back then. And, I was driving the wagon. And it was a shitty job because you had to pump gas and all that. But you know what? I had a little boy to raise. I had a daughter to raise, and I was happy to be back. But when I went back finally as a cop, in uniform, I mean, I was in uniform then, but on the streets patrolling, I was a better product. I helped more people. And this is what the education we get is like a doctorate's degree in AA, the longer you're sober, especially in our line of work, because people don't understand policing. It's a multitude of jobs in one job, right?
Yeah. No, it's, it's not because I don't want to go to school or I got ADD. I don't care how many letters you got behind your name. You can't do the shit I can do. I don't care what you say.
Right. That's right.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of sad, though, that people do that, and then they think that they automatically are going to capture someone and talk sense to them. And not any cop. No. You know what I mean? But, hey, it's been a great ride.
It has. We're going to take a quick break, Sky.
Quick break, yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that. I watched. I was telling Mike and Ed, I watched like the news special from, and that's why I was getting teared up when you say it, because it's like I watched it on YouTube, and then I'm like meeting you, so it's such an honor to be here with you. So we will take a short break, and then we will be back. Go ahead, Mike, take us out.
Answering the call, First Responders Podcast will be back in a few minutes.
You're first to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first, that connects you to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. Built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only congressionally authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Answering the call, the First Responders Podcast, sponsored by FirstNet, built by AT&T. And here with the Podfather, Mike Miles.
And Skylar, noon time.
Yep, Skylar Noon. And we have a really, really good guest, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. Maybe you might want to give us some numbers before you introduce Brian.
Yeah, let's do that. So we have a line you can reach us, the Friends in Recovery. Answering the call line is 617-379-1163. And you can email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can also reach out to copline.org. And the number there is 800-267-5463. So it's 800-COP-LINE.
Super. Okay, Miss Noon, take it away.
Yeah, Brian, so did you want to tell us a little bit of your topic of interest?
Okay. Yeah, well, my favorite baby these days is police suicide. And I think last year we had 240 some odd across the country. I mean, in 19 and 20, I think we went down significantly, but until that number gets to zero, I won't be satisfied. But I know that having gone through those feelings myself and coming close to it, I mean, just last week, I don't know if I mentioned I talked to someone last week about suicide.
Yeah.
Okay. I had someone, and I've done this before, but this kind of took me by surprise because I had been trying to work with this officer for a while and they just aren't listening. And next thing you know, they had a gun and they were drunk and they started talking about suicide. So, like when that comes up, every magic word you can think of comes out. Everything you learn, whatever. And I was able to find out that they weren't taking the medication. And luckily, the medication they were on was quick acting. So I kept on the phone while I was talking, made it take it. Next thing you know, about an hour later, things are off. And then the next day, we can, because you know as well, 80% of suicides are with alcohol, under the influence of alcohol.
Absolutely.
And when you get a gun, you know, and the difference between when I had my finger on that chief special, that's a 12-pound trigger.
Right.
You know, I have a friend of mine, John Ridlon, who killed himself in 2009. He was a SWAT sniper. And this is typical for cops. We are the best actors on the face of the earth.
That's right.
Spit, shine, polish, smiling, beautiful. Inside, we're dying. And this guy was like that. He was a tall, good-looking guy. He had all kinds of pressure at home we didn't know about. Always joking. You know, on the SWAT team, it's like the professional leagues of sarcasm. It's like
so true. So true.
It's like
great.
razor tongue, death-defying.
Yeah.
You know, like there's nobody sacred in your family. It's just like
nobody, right?
And this guy was just like that, right? He always had a smile. And you know, we got a call. He was missing, and they found him Thanksgiving 2009 behind Woburn High School. He shot himself in the head with a brand new 1911 45 with a 3-pound trigger on it. So all he had to do was touch that, and he was gone.
Right.
If I did what he did, and had to say, I wouldn't be.
Same
Right.
here. Right.
So you know what? God has a plan. So that's part of mine being here. But what I wanted to say is we were able to, back when I first took over, started working with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and we built this thing called the Peer Support Quiz. And there's one in Boston, but I have one in Massachusetts. It's sponsored by Mascot, and it's called the Mascot Peer Support Quiz. If you're a police officer in Massachusetts, you can take it. And all you do is go on and you answer the questions. It's like that, it's how many critical incidents you've been exposed to, what have you been to, how's your eating, how's your drinking, sleeping, are you stressed, this, that, and the other thing. It's like 11 pages. It takes about 10 minutes. And each answer has an algorithm, basically, that goes into a risk category.
Right.
So when you're finished, and then there's a free text box. That's where we get a lot of information. And you know, cops are always saying they're like a 60-year-old male. They'll say they're a 29-year-old female officer. But I don't really care about that. I care about what was said in the thing. And then it assigns. So if you get a 1A, that's someone who's near the edge. So that once they hit submit, myself and another retired officer, we get a page, and we go back on. We look at the test, and then we give them a personalized response.
Right.
We don't know who or where they are, whether we don't know anything about them. So if, like I tell people, I said, if you're thinking of suicide and you're going to kill yourself, and you tell me that on the test, I can't help you because I don't know who or where you are. And it has to be that confidential. So this is to get you before you get to that point. I will tell you quickly, the first guy that ever came in for that test in Boston, we had 60 people take the test that first year. It was around the marathon. And this guy was suicidal, homicidal, 2 tours in Iraq, drinking alcoholically, and I'm saying to myself, this guy ought to look like a real beaut. You know, he's got to be a mess, right?
Right.
What do you think walks in my office?
Yeah, spit shine.
28 years old, spit, shine, polish, and a smile from ear to ear.
Yeah.
He was high risk for suicide.
Imagine,
so
right?
6 people come in off that test out of the 60 that took it. 3 of them were high risk suicide. All of them are alive today. And that guy that I'm talking about, he was so smart. He don't do details or overtime. He's a real estate agent on the side.
Of course he is. He's good looking.
Yeah. So,
oh man.
So we do those things. Actually, I've been talking to some people. That may go nationwide.
That'd be great.
Well, Brian, you talk about a tool, and you know what people wouldn't know, like Skylar might not know, Ed might not know this, but I know it because I was a cop and I was suicidal, and I understand, and I've had fellow officers. I had a roommate, Chris Finnegan. He put a plastic bag over his head, 3 kids and a wife, and he videoed it. I mean, come on, and he was living with me, and he was just always in a good mood, always upbeat, always happy. Just somebody you wanted to be around, but he was dying on the inside,
Yeah.
But what people wouldn't know too is cops. We don't go talk to doctors. We lie to doctors. We lie to psychiatrists, But someone like Brian, you could lie to him all day, but all you got to do is see somebody, just look at them. Just when they come into my office and look at me, and I look at them, I can just tell. Brian, you know what I'm talking about? It's almost like a sixth sense. And who are they more comfortable talking to? Us. Right. They're going to tell us everything. They're going to tell us stuff we don't want to fucking know. Right. I just pulled it in.
For all the bad things that have happened, like I mentioned, the 3 things happening, that gives me credibility with them. Well, this guy's been fired. He's been through the fire. He knows what's going on. I remember Tommy Nee, who was the president of the union in Boston, because when I got fired, they were trying to get me to give up other cops all over the place and everything, right? I kind of forgot about it, right? I just told him to go fuck himself, right? Tommy Nee goes, "Hey, I'd rob a bank and fucking bury the body with this guy. I know he's not going to say a freaking word."
Well, like I said, as a Lowell cop, it's a good sized city, but as a cop in general, I mean, we can see crimes, similar crimes and everything, but Boston's gone through some difficult times, and the fact that you're a Boston police officer who's recovering, who's helped thousands of officers nationwide, it's got to give you some type of, especially where you've come from, where you've been on the outside looking in, and you end up getting everything back and then some, and your name is much more known than that past superintendent that you discussed. You know what I'm saying, right? I mean, no one even knows his name.
You know what the best thing he ever did?
Tell me.
Was turn over all the things for the marathon to me.
Yeah.
He just delegated it right to me, and I took it from there. See you later.
There you go. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you do for enjoyment? Are you like me? Do you just like do nothing? Maybe read once in a while? Do you do anything? Do you ride your bike?
I love doing nothing. Someone told me, "What are you going to do when you retire?" I said, "I'm going to sit on my porch and drool for the next 30 years. I've had enough excitement for one lifetime. Leave me alone."
Yeah, right.
But I still go to a lot of meetings, especially during this. I'm every morning I'm with my group from the Cape and some other places, but just to keep in touch and keep recovery front and center.
Yeah, same here. I work up at a place up in Salem. It's called Crossroads Recovery, and I run groups Monday and Tuesday nights. Got between 9 and 17 people, and we're all together, but we wear masks and stuff. But you know what? I get paid to do it, but I got to be honest, I do it for nothing. I love it. I just, and you know what? I don't talk as much. I let everyone get involved. They know I was a cop. Most of them, they don't give a shit. There's always a couple people that, they want to throw the little wisecracks in there. But I also have a lot to do with cops and firemen and correctional officers. And I don't know. It's just, I think that was what I was meant to do, and I'm grateful to be sober. But having friends like Ed is just unbelievable. To be able to call him anytime. He always praises us as cops, and, he always puts us up on a pedestal. But he does just as much for our profession than we do. You know what I mean? And he's polished and he's good, and I just love the guy. I swear he's the best.
He doesn't find he always sees the positive in something, and that's a really hard skill for me at least.
He is.
Oh yeah.
He sees the good in a lot of things, that's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, Brian, it's been great having you as a guest. I hope you can come on again.
How can we get a hold of you? Or is there any way people can get a hold of you if they need, like, maybe a fellow cop, if they wanted to reach out to you? Or
yeah, do you want to copy it, or do you want to put it in the chat, or what do you want me to do?
If you, go ahead, Sky.
Go ahead and read it, and I'll write it too, so that way I can put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, it's BRIAN, Brian, at peersupportservices.net.
Well,
okay, services.net. Perfect. I think it's great what you do. And I think that's great that, people can talk to you anonymously and, and that you're trying to get it, grow it even more. Cause that was the one thing that stuck out to me in that special I watched. Cause I'm like, that's amazing. That's what every police department needs,
I mean, a lot of places are coming, they're coming up with, actually, I'm helping Springfield set up their peer support unit now.
Oh, nice.
They haven't had anything until this past contract. They got it written into the union contract, so now they have to do it.
Right.
So I went up and did something for them a little while ago, and now I'm actually helping them set up a phone app that's completely confidential where people get information and stuff without talking to anybody.
Wow, that's a huge city. I can't imagine. But that's how far behind this. We have the highest number of suicides, but we have the least amount of employee assistance or peer helpers, which is totally ridiculous.
It's changing. It's getting there, but we got a long way to go.
Long way to go. Yeah. Brian, what a pleasure having you on. You made my day. I got to tell you.
Thanks, Carlos.
Yes, thank you. It's such great meeting pioneers like you guys. I'm telling you.
Pioneer. I feel so old.
No, but I mean, like that's
that's
a peer sports specialist. That's a big deal. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm proud to know you.
He's the real deal. Brian's the real deal. Believe me.
All right. I'll see you guys. Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.